AI is just a tool, but it's not the artist. Lower the costs. It's not going to give you six-pack abs. It's not going to make you incredibly popular at parties. To be honest, it's probably the opposite of that. It'll probably make you less popular at parties. But my point
Is
is...
Econ talking about AI again? Quick, just pretend you're talking to me. Pretend you're talking to me. But I was talking about acting. It's hard. It's a struggle. And she goes, why does that have to be? And I was like, what? She goes, why does it have to be a struggle? And I was like, and it just like opened up my mind.
And I told you, my dad came around, right? Because he really wanted me to go to math grad school. My sister literally said to me, she goes, hey, I think Dad's kind of embarrassed to tell people you're an actor.
Cool.
This is the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast. I'm your host, Econ Song. This is Rían, she, Kelly.
How's it going, guys?
This is where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. You can find us wherever you find your podcast at Actors Guide Podcast. If you get a chance, leave us a rating or review. It really helps people find the podcast. And follow us on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast.
Yep, or email us if you want, actorsguidepodcast@gmail.com, and just tell us how your day's going.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear all feedback. Let us know what you think.
Yep, and it helps to nurse our massive egos if you say something nice about it.
Exactly, especially at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We all need it.
When our egos are at their most bruised and battered, just right
Exactly.
at the end.
So today we're talking about AI. We're going to talk about a video. It really made the rounds the past couple months. Ben Affleck was talking about AI, about the future, what he thinks will happen, what he thinks won't happen. It was very articulate, very encouraging for actors. I think everyone should watch it. We're going to put it in the show notes. We're going to dive into that. We're also going to share personal experiences with juggling a survival job alongside acting.
And I talk about how a shift in mindset positively impacted my self-esteem and how it changed the face of my career.
And without further ado, a quick word from our sponsor.
Have you always wanted to be in the movies? Well, now thanks to the power of AI, you can experience exactly what it's like to be a big Hollywood star. Almost. Introducing AI Actor, a virtual immersive experience for anybody who wants to feel what it's really like to be an actor in Hollywood.
Feel what it's like to be down to the final two actors for the role and lose to Ryan Gosling. Experience the life-changing money slip right through your fingers only to get to your car and see that you got a parking ticket. And with the new AI Traffic Simulator Pack, you can race through hyper-realistic bumper-to-bumper traffic from your callback to your part-time gig at the Cheesecake Factory.
AI Actor, you're so fucking close.
That was it. I'm actually in my New Jersey family's home, and I'm in the study, and I just wanted to show how smart I am by putting a lot of books in the background, just in case.
And how many doctorates you have.
Several, yeah, exactly.
It would appear.
Yep, all 5 of them were mine. Subliminally, I wanted to show you guys books because I love to read.
Yep, and I wanted to show off that I have a raccoon with a Santa hat on. I will say, before we get into this, I will say what gives me hope is there's an old video I've seen of Ben Affleck talking about when he's quite young. It must be not too long after Good Will Hunting. He sort of predicted streaming. Like how streaming would come about and the future of movies and how they would be consumed and sold. And it was very prophetic for a young actor at that time.
That's a great call.
Like he does seem to be very clued into what's coming down the line.
Jumping into this video, I'll say a few quotes here. So the question was whether how serious a threat AI will be to Hollywood. And he was very clear right off the jump. He basically said movies will be one of the last things to get replaced by AI. If you thought that a James Bond version of generative AI characters completely without humans in them would just spawn and you could create a franchise without any actors in it, Ben Affleck said it might never be possible, or at least not in the near future. He went on to say it will not be able to write you Shakespeare. The idea of 4 actors in a room and the taste to discern and construct that of what a Hollywood film or a film would be eludes AI. And he goes on, it'll eliminate the costly, laborious aspects, make it easier for those to make, say, a Good Will Hunting. It'll lower the barrier to entry, bringing down those costs, but it will not replace creating an actual film. So we could just start off with that. Actually, one other thing on top of it. It will be a craftsman at best. It'll imitate and be able to learn technique, cross pollinating things that exist. And craftsman is knowing how to work. Art is knowing when to stop. That is where taste comes into play, which will be very difficult to learn for AI.
That's a very interesting distinction. I like that. I don't know if I fully understand it. I do kind of vaguely, but knowing when to stop.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm personally not as against AI as most actors. There's a lot of actors who want it gone, want it sworn off. My take is it's not a magic bullet. You won't instantly become Quentin Tarantino. Great tool, lower the costs. It's not going to give you six-pack abs. It's not going to make you incredibly popular at parties. To be honest, it's probably the opposite of that. It'll probably make you less popular at parties. But my point
is... Econ talking about AI again. Quick, just pretend you're talking to me. Pretend you're talking to me.
My point is, the irony is we got into this field because we wanted to do the creative work. Whether you're a writer, I know a sound engineer. AI will get rid of a lot of the tedious things with sound engineering. But he loves to be a sound engineer. So why would he want AI to do the work that he actually wanted to do? It's the same thing for writers. Michael Jamin is one of the working writer, and I remember him saying this. When you bring in AI into the writer's room, he's a real writer. Most real writers actually like writing. They want to do the work. They don't want AI to do it for them. Now, it can streamline a lot of things and make it easier to do their job, but ultimately they're still going to be the writer. And I think that's where Affleck's quote from the video, AI is the craftsman, it can do the work, art is knowing when to stop. You're the painter, doesn't need a touch of grain in the sky. How do you know when you're done? The art of traditional filmmaking, for example, completely eludes AI. It's not capable right now, and he thinks it will never be capable. And I think that's a bold take, but I can see his point. AI is taking iterations of what already exists at hyper speeds. Whether it can actually create something truly original, that's up for debate, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think because I know a couple of writers, and I know, one of the writers that I know has a lot of experience, and we talked about AI, numerous times, and his take on it is he'll use it as a tool if he can to maybe just generate a couple of ideas or something, but his assertion is that AI can't do what I can do. You know what I mean? It would take me longer for AI to generate a story and me to have to correct it or modify it than it would for me to write the story in the first place. So right at this moment, a writer with a lot of experience is a lot better than AI. And I think that'll probably continue to be the case. And I will say, I think one of the fears that I've heard from people is that, or not fears necessarily, but one of the things they say will exist in the not too distant future is people will be able to, instead of going to pick a movie, they can say, I want to see a crime thriller, starring Scarlett Johansson, set in Beijing, and this AI will create this movie for them. I don't think that's a real possibility, if only for the fact that people are pretty lazy, and I include myself in that. Remember when Black Mirror brought out that movie where you could choose your own, you had to choose the kind of path, which was a novel idea, it was a cool idea. I think Black Mirror is a brilliant show, but it didn't really do great because I think that's too much work for people. And I don't think people want to sit down to watch a movie and have to do the work themselves to figure out the story, because it's almost like sitting down to watch, to pick a movie now. There are so many different streaming services. There's so much choice. There's old movies, there's new movies, there's things you've wanted to see for years, there's things that are, that people have told you, have recommended. It's almost too overwhelming, the choice. So I think if you widen that even further, I think that just puts people off, because I think it fundamentally jars with why people watch movies. They don't watch movies to go and do the work themselves and figure out the story themselves. They go to be entertained and lose themselves in it. So that's one aspect of this that I think...
This is the big picture as far as what does this mean for the consumer? Even and Ben Affleck actually touches on this a teeny bit in the video as well. I don't know if I completely agree with your take. I mean, first of all, we don't know what's going to happen later on down the line. Um, uh, I think the big question is ultimately the consumer is always going to win. The consumer is always going to be able to access and get whatever they want, essentially with later on with technology. Meaning that what Ben Affleck actually said was the most realistic version of Hollywood that's going to happen in years when AI is more developed. I want to be Iron Man in space. The question is that going to be the mainstream standard of all of our entertainment? I can say right off the bat, I'm not going to be watching that. No judgment. And to be honest, the studio is really going to win. The studios is always going to win. But the consumer is going to win as well because they're going to get basically every option possible thrown to them.
Yeah, they are. But I think, for that, and that's a really interesting, idea that you could create a movie and put yourself in the lead role and be like, I want to be James Bond and in this film. You can kind of, there's a rudimentary version of that now. You can put your face on any video, really. You know what I mean? Now, how many people do you know do that with any regularity? I don't know anybody who does that. Like, I've seen videos of like, oh, look at this. You could put your own face. I see ads for it on Instagram or whatever. I don't know how appealing that is to people, but it is interesting. I was just thinking of it like, say you went to an art museum and you could pick the paintings and go, I want to see like, just pick any. I want to see a Van Gogh. I want to see, a picture of this. I still don't think people are prepared to do that kind of work. Because I don't think that's what people watch movies for, or or consume entertainment or art for. I don't think that's the point. I think we're all looking to be entertained, looking for some kind of story, looking for some kind of meaning in it. And if we have to do the work ourselves, it kind of detracts from that.
I feel like it's a fun novelty.
Yeah.
I don't want to underestimate people's interest. That technology is already here, like you're saying. So just imagine in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Because look at it this way. I just heard an ad, an audio voiceover ad, essentially a radio ad, but it was on YouTube or whatever. It was read by Gemini AI. I don't even know all these different names, but Gemini is basically Google's AI. It was literally read. That means no humans. We happen to be going into a commercial contract where it's going to be a big part of it. We have the voiceover industry as actors. We have commercial industry as actors. I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't paying attention, that radio ad that I heard, I wouldn't have known that AI created it.
Yeah, I think protections need to be put in place. I really do. I think, the more protections we can have to protect people's livelihoods. I think AI is here no matter what. Nobody's going to stop the tide. So then it becomes about how do you protect people and how do you implement it?
The Animation Guild just voted yes on their contract with the producers after 3 months. This literally just happened and just happened this week. So we know that in many fields, voiceover, animation, visual effects already took huge hits this year. I know a VFX supervisor, and I know that his team, a lot of people got let go. Huge cost from 7 years ago would be a lot less now. So that is going to be a huge shift, and even Ben Affleck admitted that in his video.
But you said something really interesting, which I just wanted to go back to real quick, is that the consumer will always win. I don't know if that's the case, because I feel like certainly in terms of social media, the consumer is not winning. Like, for example, X, Twitter, X, the algorithm now has made that a very inhospitable place to be. The most of the content I see when I go on my Twitter feed, which is more and more rare these days, is kind of like rage bait. It's kind of people, armed robbery's gone wrong, or this fight happened on a football field, or it's stuff that's very shocking, and you can see how it's engaging, but it's not enjoyable. You know what I mean? It's probably engaging, but it's really, you don't come away from it feeling, oh, that was great. So I don't know, the idea that the consumer will always win, I'm not sure about that. I think the studios will always win, like you said, but I don't know if we will.
Okay, so I think that's a great point. I won't say the consumer wins. I think they'll have a lot of options, even more than they have now. They won't be happy, but they'll have options. So the winning is very relative. They definitely won't be happy. That is a perfect example of modern society. It's scrolling through to Netflix for 45 minutes and you can't find something to watch, so you just go on TikTok. A modern society is rarely happy, but we have plenty of options.
I also think there's a kind of a scenario where the consumer doesn't really get to choose. You kind of get what you get, in the same way that there's so many. There was a raft of superhero movies for quite a while, and they were the only movies being made. Now maybe that was what people wanted. I don't know, but possibly the majority rules, and that's what ultimately decides what gets made. But I feel like it's kind of force fed to you too.
That's literally the word. It's force feeding you.
Yeah.
They will show you a car wreck and say, hey, did you like that car wreck? We're going to show you 10.
Yeah.
And that does bring up a great point. Algorithm is huge. What if AI makes a better algorithm? They're already doing that with Spotify right now. And that might make you and people that feel like you very happy, because that's why they're going all in on AI. That's another reason why they're going all in on AI. And here's the thing. The studios, and this is part of the conversation with AI, the studios are consistently 7 years behind.
What do you mean by 7 years? 7 years behind? 7 years?
Everyone was sleeping on YouTube as far as how powerful it is, the community, and also how much people were on it. So, say for example, when DVDs happened, DVDs were a way that the studios were making money. It took the actors years to be able to negotiate that after the fact. Okay, and so eventually streaming happened. And in 2013, 2014, around then, all of us were really slow. We're like, what is this streaming? Or it was like, are we really going to do this? And then years later, actors were starting to negotiate it. Thank God. And here we are in the double strikes that we did last year. So ultimately, everyone was just a step behind. Obviously, Netflix was very ahead of the game. You have studios still trying to tap and use the algorithm to see, hey, what are the kids watching?
I think the part of the problem is nobody has figured out how to make money from streaming. And that's why we have this, sort of free-for-all where everybody's trying to figure it out. And that's...
Netflix is making $1 bajillion and is incredibly successful right now.
Still, though.
So I can't speak on whether Netflix is making tons of profits off streaming, but I can say that this year they have been incredibly successful. Their stock is up 86% year to date, meaning that if you owned Netflix stock at this point right now, your money almost doubled. I'd say that that's a pretty good year. Meanwhile, WB Discovery stock is the price of a Chipotle burrito. So they're clearly winning the streaming war, and I think all the other studios are backtracking and figuring out what to do. Because they're not going to win that. They're not going to win that war. And then guess what? Netflix is adding ads, so they are going to be able to make more money. And then on top of it, they're doing live sports. One thing I just wanted to add while we wrap up the AI conversation. I think it poses a really interesting challenge for us creatives. We're going to see if us humans can create more compelling stories than these robots, than these AI-generated prompts, that our blood, guts, and humanity will move people more than what AI creates. And I think a lot of people are scared of that challenge. And according to Affleck, AI cannot do that right now. It cannot do the magic of traditional filmmaking with actors, direction, musical score, making a compelling story. And according to Ben Affleck, it'll possibly never be able to do that. Our choice is still fairly straightforward. If you want to be a creative, in whatever creative field, you should keep doing it. AI is just a tool, but it's not the artist. If you just wanted to act, you will be able to act. AI will not be able to stop that. Now, the question is whether you can make money in that profession. That's...
Yeah, I agree. A friend of mine who's an actor and a very successful actor said that a change for him happened when he stopped asking his art to pay for his life, where he had something on the side and he stopped depending on, he said it just took all the pressure off him. It took all the pressure off his creative work, and that helped him. For some people, I think it's probably the opposite. It's when they do kind of depend on it maybe it gives them the impetus to double down. I don't know, but it's just an interesting idea that like when art and money intersect, it complicates it. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel like that could be a whole nother episode. But let's talk about that. I think that's brilliant. I found that to be the case for myself. This woman just put it so brilliantly. She's in computer, she's in the tech world. She basically said, people don't realize in the tech world where everyone's trying to create the next Facebook or the next Uber, all those people who are working tirelessly to launch that business, their income is coming from a different thing. Their income is coming from something that's not sexy, no one knows, and probably anonymous. But their heart and their passion is developing the next Facebook and Uber. What she said, and it hit me right between the eyes because I was like, this is exactly what actors need to know. She basically said, Silicon Valley had no problem making a distinction between income and, I forget what the word she used, but let's just use your passion. They make a distinction between your income and your passion. If you can separate those two, that's your superpower. They are unstoppable because they had no problem working on their Facebook when their income was coming from a crappy job that made them a lot of money, but they didn't care about. They didn't have any conflicted feelings about that, right? And guess what? Actors, we have trouble separating income and our passion. It's a big surprise that actors feel a lot more than Silicon Valley, right? But the point is if we could control that, if we could make our money completely separate from our passion and have no problem with that, we would be unstoppable. Our 9-to-5 job that makes us money and gets us comfortable every month, we can make that. We feel no shame about it, and we can devote all our time and our heart to our passion. If we were able to do that, if we were able to conquer that, we'd be unstoppable.
There's a couple of things that play into that. I think one of them is self-esteem. You know, a lot of actors feel like if I'm not making my living from acting, I'm not an actor, you know? The other practical consideration is time and the amount of energy you have. So depending on the job you work, you need it to be flexible. You know, if it's a part-time job or a survival job, you need it to be flexible because you need to be able to drop it and pick it up as needs be, to take jobs, to do auditions. Yeah, and I've been on both sides of it. I currently don't have another job. You know what I mean? Like I'm currently just making my living from acting. But I don't know what the future holds. You know, for me, that's the kind of the mental battle of not letting fear creep into what I do creatively. You know, it's a tightrope. It's a tightrope to walk because not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from is tricky.
Right. Wait, I just want to be clear with what I'm saying. I'm just saying to emotionally try to remove ourselves from the stigma or the shame of needing a side job. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
No, I agree with that. And the stigma and the shame, but that's a big thing for a lot of actors. And I think it can be reinforced by how people react when you say you're an actor, especially if they see you in a work environment, you know, if it's at a side job. Like when I was bartending, I would try not to tell people I was an actor. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to invite the conversation. If it came up, of course I would talk about it, but I would never lead with it. You know what I mean? I would never be like, well, I'm actually an actor, because to me, that seemed like that was rooted in low self-esteem. I know I'm doing this, but I'm actually something else. You know what I mean? Like,
touched on something that's really, really interesting. I think you're a perfect example because you have such a strong mindset. You didn't just move out to LA or just act 5 months ago. You and me are both in the privileged position of being in the game for a bit. We've seen the highs and the lows. We survived. We've had side jobs. We have dead end jobs. So as positive and as optimistic as you are, you admit that it's actually difficult to make that emotional disconnection between your income and your passion.
I don't know. For me, it was kind of it changed over time, and you know, like the work that I put into mindset and stuff is now, it's starting to pay dividends now. But for a long time, I was insecure about a lot of things. I was insecure about the fact that I never went to, a full-time drama school. I started to work and did classes at night, and I was also in college. So I felt the kind of shame of that for a while. There's a lot of things that were so unnecessary and were kind of a hindrance to my progress, but I had to kind of figure that out along the way. So
I completely agree. I was very similar, to be honest. You say you figured it out. In what way? Like, was there anything concrete that you kind of worked through?
when I say I figured it out, I don't think I completely figured it out, but I certainly found a way to be um, more at peace with it. And I think how I got there personally was I started to do this kind of mindset work every day. And instead of seeing the lack of something, I started to just feel the sort of the joy of it, or the abundance of, without getting, without trying to sound too wanky about it. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
I focused on the joy of it. I also was doing more of it. I was also in class more. I was also practicing more. I was more immersed in it. What happened then? A funny thing happened then. The acting work started to really kind of interfere with the job that I had been doing in a very real way. But what happened when I started to do the mindset work was the acting work I started to get would take me away from the job for longer. And it was harder and harder for me to hold on to that. So then
I
it became a
see.
sort of a leap of faith thing where I had to go, okay, well, if I can't keep this job, I have to let this job go. And if I have to let this job go, okay, then I'm just taking whatever comes next.
That's kind of like what I was getting at. I mean, this isn't going that far back, because obviously this is the time that we've known each other, and then also the work that at the studio when we met at Leslie Kahn. So this is actually fairly recent to make that shift. You're
Sure.
putting in the work. I don't want to gloss over that, because I think that's kind of like, this is really great for me to hear. This is possibly what a lot of other people are trying to figure out for themselves. It just so happens that we're going to holidays. It just so happens that it can be a very dreary time for a lot of actors. This is what most of us have experienced. Do you thrive on it? Does it destroy you? Where's your self-esteem fall? And then hopefully after years of grinding and putting in work, can we actually get in control of it? I don't know if this was ever going to pop up, but it just happened to be I was at my family's house, and I had flashbacks of me growing up. It was easier dealing with my family when I was across the country. I'm not going to lie. But I remember years back, really early on in the game, my sister said to me, and I told you, my dad came around, right? Because he really wanted me to go to math grad school. My sister literally said to me, she goes, "Hey, I think Dad's kind of embarrassed to tell people you're an actor."
Ooh.
Not even joking around. Here's the thing. My sister was watching out for me. And I think she wanted to watch out for me and protect me, but also let me know. This is the brilliance of being incredibly stubborn or just completely oblivious. It had very little effect on me. I had blinders. It didn't matter. I was working at Urban Outfitters. I don't even know where I was working. I was able to make that emotional disconnect between income and passion. And whether it was dumb luck or I was just stupid, I was able to have those blinders on and get through to the years where we could grow up and mature and be in a little more control of our mindset and be a little more positive.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think a friend of ours, someone you know, so put it beautifully, when he talked about waiting for the job to come save him, like waiting for that big role, that series regular role to change his life completely. He would, a car would come pick him up. He'd move a few blocks away to where the big houses were, and his life would be totally different. And when he stopped looking for that, like looking for the job to rescue him, and started to look at more what he could contribute to, the lives of the people around him, the lives of his family, how could he be of service? Things completely changed for him. And I think that's what it is. Who was I talking to? No, I was listening to an interview of one of the Daily Show hosts, and she was talking about Desi Lydic, and she talked about how she she was always lived her life by like, I can't go on vacation because I have to wait and see, the job might need me. And then she got pregnant. She had auditioned for The Daily Show. And then I think she'd auditioned a few times, but then she got pregnant, and she was like, you know what? Fuck it, whatever. You know what I mean? This is just how it's going to be. And if they need me, they need me. And they called her, and she got the job, and she's like, flew to New York, and she talked to one of the producers, and she's like, just so you know, I'm pregnant. The producer's like, yep, cool, whatever, you know. But it was when she let go of like, because I used to do that. I did that for years. We were talking about a lot of Irish students go on what's called a J1 visa to America when they're in college. It's like a student visa. They go over and get jobs and, you know, act, you know, basically drink their faces off and have a great time for 3 months. And I didn't do it because I had started acting, and I was worried that like, well, I can't leave because of the job. I think when you start living your life and going, you know what, I'm going to live my life anyway, I think it just shifts something where it's like, yeah, live your life. Don't put your life on hold waiting for something to happen. I think waiting is the worst possible place you can be. The worst possible state I can be in is waiting for something, whatever it is, waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to not happen. You know, it's such a powerless place to be. And I think when you take yourself out of that and take back a little bit of agency back and go, no, I'm just going to live my life. It just balances everything a little bit better.
I love that. Just one thing, because I just realized this. So for those tracking, because my mind is blown from this conversation, because I realized that me and a lot of the stories that we're talking about are on polar sides of this. Me having those blinders on for so many years helped me in so many ways, but I realized having those blinders on was the reason I was sitting around waiting for so many years. So for all those years, I realized, because that ties into a little bit about, you know, a handful of episodes back, we talk about, you know, we had a few moments in our lives that were life-changing, and I decided to create more stuff and get on YouTube and all that stuff. I realized I had blinders on for years, and that's what was stopping me from creating stuff and putting it on YouTube and doing all that thing, because I was so keyed in on, this is how I look at life. This is what I need. This is what I believe. And I was so resistant to the forces in the outside around me that it was protecting me emotionally. But I realized I was missing a lot of things. And so to put it on perspectives, like, I needed to open up more. Some people can protect themselves a little bit more, but either way, there's a spectrum here. And I think that's what I learned after, you know, recently from these conversations.
That's really interesting. There's a phrase, and you'll hear sometimes in recovery, where people say, I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams. And when I was early on in sobriety or whatever, they used to drive me crazy, because I was like, what? You obviously just don't have big dreams, pal, because I've got these big dreams. But I kind of understand it now, because like when I zoom out and I look at my life, I go, I know I actually am living, like, I get to be an actor. I get to be an actor in LA. I get to do what I love. I get to do it for money. You know, I get to work with all these cool people. I've had all these experiences in my life as a result of it. It's brought me all around the place. I've traveled a lot. My dreams never look like how I think they will. And I think that's what it is. It's like beyond my wildest dreams. I couldn't have imagined the life that I have today. And I think that fuels the kind of, that fuels the transition away from feeling like the part-time job is dragging you down, and, you know, feeling shame about that. Like, you have to. And there's another thing I've noticed, is where people talk about, oh, you know, broke actors working in a bar, whatever. I'm like, the tenacity that takes to work, to put all of this time and money and effort into getting better at this thing, while also holding down a part-time job or sometimes a full-time job that involves long hours and shift work and trying to juggle things. A lot of people have families and kids, and there are all these considerations that go into this thing. So it's so disingenuous to talk about, you know, that kind of idea of like actors being sort of losers, the broke actor all waiting to make it. What have I seen you? And that kind of shit, where you're like, you don't understand what kind of tenacity and what kind of heart it takes to just stay in it.
I do feel like it's easy for other people to criticize, because we're chasing after a dream and they wish they could. If you see comments on YouTube, if you see comments on Instagram, those are people at home, clicking
Listen,
away,
comments on any,
trying
yeah,
to. Yeah, exactly. Colman Domingo is doing a lot of interviews. Obviously, he's been crushing the past couple years, and he's doing a lot of interviews for Sing Sing right now. Incredible actor, and he's kind of, in a way, getting his heyday because I don't know how many people knew him as a name, say, 3 years ago. And he was doing an interview, and he said, a lot of people would come up to him and was like, I can't believe how great you're doing. I remember you when you were a struggling actor and all that stuff. And it's so funny because he was so spot on. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't remember that. I was never a struggling actor. I mean, at least not according to me. I was an actor. I might have been waiting tables, but I was having a great blissful time, and I don't remember that. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but if someone asked me that, I almost would have said the same exact thing. That's the mindset that I hope that others and myself can have.
My friend Amy, pal of mine, good friend of mine, said that to me one time. I was talking, it was the way I was talking about it. This is a good few years ago, but I was talking about acting. It's hard. It's a struggle. And she goes, why does that have to be? And I was like, what? She goes, why does it have to be a struggle? And I was like, and it just like opened up my mind. I was like, oh yeah, that's a choice.
For people who are fans of Tim Ferriss, this is one of his popular questions. I think someone pitched this to him, and it was something as simply because he's a big podcaster. He interviews a lot of really great thinkers. And someone posed the question, what would this be like if it was easy?
Yeah.
Just throughout life, whatever you're doing that is incredibly, whether you're starting a company, whether you're managing your marriage, whatever it may be, what would this be like if it was easy?
Yeah, it's like a best case scenario. Like, what if the best case scenario happened as opposed to the worst case scenario?
Right. So let's get into hidden gems. I think that's pretty good. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So my hidden gem for this week is a sauna and cold plunge place called Sláinte, which means health. That's the Irish word for health. Slainte, with a little fada, which is an accent for anybody who doesn't speak Irish. So Sláinte, it's a facility. It's close to the Eastlink Bridge in Dublin, if anybody knows where that is. It's in Dublin 4. But it's got a really hot sauna, like a wood burning sauna, and then outside it has 3 plunge pools, which are 3 degrees Celsius. I'd have to get the conversion on that to Fahrenheit, but they're pretty cold. And the idea
3 degrees Celsius.
3 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so that's like 30-ish Fahrenheit. That's
just
just above freezing. Above freezing.
Yeah, probably 36 Fahrenheit, 36, 37 maybe. And it's so basically you pay for the hour and you can just use it for the hour. And we did 3 rounds of sauna to cold plunge. And let me tell you, it took me a while to get acclimatized. LA has made me soft. So it just, by the 3rd time I was able to stay in with my friends like this for the same amount of time as my friends. But my God, it took me 3 times to get there. So, but then I jumped in the sea on Christmas Day, as is the tradition here in Ireland, and not a bother. It was a breeze. And I think I attribute that to my cold plunge training this week. So, but I came away feeling great.
You toughened up your skin by doing the cold plunge before you jumped into the sea.
Absolutely. And there's been a weird phenomenon in Ireland since the pandemic where everybody is swimming in the sea every single day of the year. Like there's no day that there isn't somebody in the water, and it's old people, young people. It is incredible how many people swim. It's just so commonplace now, and it's brilliant to see. And a lot of these saunas and plunge pool facilities, cold plunge facilities have popped up. Everybody's into it now, and I think it's just the most wonderful thing. I'm delighted.
I enjoy a cold plunge. But yeah, that's there's huge benefits for that. Let me throw this one out there. This is just off of my experience this week. So my family, we all went to IKEA. I don't know if people understand how developed their cafeteria, their restaurant has gotten. So everyone knows that they have the Swedish meatballs, they have the peas, and they have lingonberry sauce. But you can get cod, you can get chicken tenders. The food was actually pretty good. But I do want to throw this out there for people. You have weekly deals. Every Tuesday is 50% off entrees. We have Thursday, senior discount. Saturday, 50% off breakfast. If you have an IKEA family account, you get free coffee, free tea anytime. And I just found this out. I don't know if it's at every location. Once a quarter, this blew my mind. Once a quarter, at least at the one in Burbank in California, they have a quarterly all-you-can-eat buffet. $19.99. Bro, I'm there. I'm so there. I'm going there. I'm going to report back. It's done. I'm doing it. So I just want to, that's my hidden gem. If you guys are sleeping on the IKEA cafeteria, oh, boy, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing.
A great little hidden gem there, a little known store from Europe called IKEA. You come across it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't sleep on those Europeans. They really got something going. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that episode. We'll see you next week. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. However you're celebrating, hope you stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, maybe give a like, maybe subscribe. It helps people find the podcast. Also, if you didn't catch last week's episode, it's right over here. Don't worry. We'll wait.